81, I know money doesn't make me happy. You know, adventure, having going for a walk with the dogs, having a great fettuccine alfredo. That's the stuff that makes me happy. I don't need a bunch of money, really.
Time that is most memorable to me is the time when he hit on me. Because I was in the office. It was one of the first times I started working for Donald Trump's a sleazebag. Okay.
Yes.
It was when I started working for Epstein, and it was 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
And Jeffrey Epstein's office was totally empty. And I told the New York Times this, but of course they don't tell the whole thing, right? Even though Mike Baker is amazing, but they would not allow him to tell the truth. Right. So basically, I go into this office. It's 9 o'clock at night, and I sit down. And a few minutes later, and I'm wearing running clothes. Okay. So it was really weird. It's 9 o'clock at night and I'm wearing running clothes because I didn't have money. So I had to jog up there.
Right.
And so I've just struggled, for so long. So I'm like up there in the office seated and I've got my, my running clothes on. So my legs are showing. And in walks this man that when I reported him to the FBI, said that game show host Donald Trump, because I thought he was a game show host.
Yeah.
Because he's so cheesy, But anyway, so I said, I said hello to him. He walks in and I just kind of acknowledged him like a head nod or something.
Yeah.
And he immediately he's standing across the room from me and I'm seated. And he's like, oh, Maria, no, he didn't. Sorry. I was just looking at something. He's standing across the room and he's looking at me and I'm like, oh, gross. This guy's so gross. Anyway, he's just glaring at my legs. Like, yum. I told my sister, I felt like I was his dinner or his lunch,
Yeah.
the way he was looking at me. So Epstein comes in. And by the way, I did not look good. I was like, I'm not exceptionally beautiful or anything like that. These are just gross people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just like a normal person who went on a run and I'm seated there. So he assumed I was there for him. And this is how I know. Epstein walks up to him and goes, no, she's not here for you. And they were smirking and Epstein whispered something. He goes, go in there. And so Trump at 9 o'clock at night goes in the other room. There's someone in there for him.
Right.
I don't know who, but Epstein said, no, she's not here for you.
Canadian toddlers, both under the age of 4, have been held in custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement this year, and one of those children was held for 51 days under the age of 4. This is based on new data obtained by the Globe and Mail. Nearly 150 Canadians have been detained by ICE officers this year, so 149. That is on pace to double the number of Canadians detained when we look at the entirety of 2024. For a closer look at these detentions, I'm joined in studio by Catherine Blaisbaum with the Globe and Mail. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I have 3 children. I know what they're like when they're little. I mean, thinking about the fact that these 2 children, they're little, under the age of 4 years old, held in these facilities. Who are these kids? What do we know about them? And what do we know about the conditions?
I, too, am a mom of 3, and it was horrifying reading through details about the facility where they were being held. So what we do know is that these 2 children were held for weeks. One of them held for more than 7 weeks at a facility in South Texas that is at the center of allegations of not providing adequate drinking water, mothers who can't access formula for their babies, no soap to clean their bottles, children who don't have toys, guards taking, a doll away from a little girl, no access to medical treatment or reduced access to medical treatment. So very challenging circumstances for these families, including these 2 Canadian children. We do know that both of them have been released. They were detained separately. These are 2 separate families, we understand, based on the data. Both detained in May, one released a couple weeks later, and then the other one, the data showed that this person and their grown-up, along with another child, were released in mid-July.
Do you know why they were detained, like what the reason was?
What we do know, based on the data analysis, is that they were detained with what appear to be grown-ups. We don't know if they are their mothers, but in the case of one of the children, it was a Bolivian mother. In the other, it was a Congolese woman, and it appears that they were picked up for what are known as other immigration violations, so no criminal record, but rather some other immigration violation, and they have been placed into what are described as expedited removal proceedings with a credible fear referral. So they are claiming
what does that mean?
Yeah, they are claiming that if they are sent home, that they fear persecution.
Got it.
And now we don't know what happened to them. We don't know where they are. We are actively trying to find them. They're just one of many people who are
putting Alabamians back to work in my area. Experience I've had, they ain't too good at what they do.
Keith Smith says most immigration workers left after the law took effect. So this potato farmer hired Americans. Problem is, he says, most show up late, work slower, and are ready to head home after lunch. Some even quit after just one day out in the field.
There's a Hispanic man that works for us, and I say, he's 52, and he'll make anywhere from $70 to $100 a day. I said, if you can keep up with him and do a good job, you can make that. But they're not physically in shape to do it. And, probably not mentally tough enough to do it, some of them.
Over on this tomato farm, the story's not much different. Brent Smith may be the only exception.
The bending over, and if you're not used to working and kneeling down and bending over and constantly up and down all day long, is the grueling part of it. It really is. I mean, other than that, it's not any harder than anything else you do with it.
With a 9.9 unemployment rate, Alabama is almost 1% higher than the national average. Tomato farmers say skilled workers can make anywhere from $200 to $300 a day, but unskilled workers make much less. And farmers say many Americans are not physically fit and simply don't work fast enough.
It's just going to take body conditioning, mental conditioning, in order to earn enough money to make it worth a day's work.
Good job. You're enabling fascism and Nazis. They're holding a single woman alone. That's a female abuse going on in there. What's wrong with you?
Jill, do you want to say anything to anybody?
Fight for democracy. Y'all need to stand up for democracy because we're losing it fast.
You guys are pussies.
Thanks to all the Democrats that stood up.
Just over there on the boring side, arguing a bill that probably has no chance of passage, thank the Lord. When my chief of staff, Peter, said, oh man, you gotta go across the rotunda, you gotta check this out. It is so important that y'all are here. This makes a difference. I am so glad that y'all are here. What our heroic House members are doing in there, is so important to democracy. Where there is no dissent, there is no democracy. Where there is no dissent, there is no democracy. That is not just good trouble. That's democracy in action. So thank you. Yes.
Pull it out.
Yo.
On it.
Y'all need to call 512-463-1000. Change the damn rule and let her out.
Yes.
Let her out!
Let her out!
Let her out!
512-463-1000. Let her out! What y'all waiting for? Go!
The Capitol closes at 10:30.
And we will be here standing on business with representatives.
Negative. We will be
Positive. I'm not going anywhere.
This is not a police
I'm not going anywhere.
No, the Capitol closes to visitors. You are a visitor. You will exit the building.
My ancestors.
Watch who's getting hurt here and how much spin the Republicans and this right-wing media are trying to put into this. So, for example, the Republicans passed the big ugly bill, and it's going to cut health care for 15 million Americans. About half of all the babies born in the United States and their mamas, about half of all the people who are in nursing homes right now, most of the people who have serious disabilities, like your neighbor who has to use a wheelchair to get around, or who has a home health aide so that she can still live at home, cutting health care for those folks, and at the same time, driving up the cost of health insurance for everybody who's got private insurance, for everybody who gets their insurance through their employers, and now triggering cuts in Medicare. So you really want to say, for all those people who cheered on the Republicans, did you really not notice that they're driving up your costs directly for healthcare? That you are the one who will pay more, or let's put it another way, when they increase these costs, a lot of hospitals are going to have to close, particularly rural hospitals are going to have to close because they can't do the uncompensated care. When people still show up in their emergency rooms, they take care of them, and they got no money to cover their costs. And when those hospitals close, they don't just close for Democrats. They don't just close for liberals. They close for everybody. And that means they close for you and they close for your family. And so that's why I think when you make the point about how dangerous this is, it's dangerous because it divides the world in a way that this alternative reality means these are people who don't hold Donald Trump and the Republicans accountable for the things that they are actually doing to the people who are part of that echo chamber.
They take a step aside here. There is quite a bit of military members and their families in line because of this government shutdown. We're in day 9 of it, and they're here for a food pantry. There's all sorts of food that is available. And I spoke with some military member spouses, and I spoke with some department heads here at the ASYMCA on why this is so important. What's the difference in the amount of people that you've seen from today to previously?
So when we first started coming, there definitely wasn't this amount of people. It was a lot, but it wasn't this amount to where it wrapped around the building. But lately it has been a lot. Like we were here last week and we were in line for like 2 hours.
In a normal week, we usually run out of food about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Last week, we ran out of food about 10:30.
Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
But isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because there's a reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day 1 that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is. The Secretary of Interior has made that the official designation in the Geographical Identification Name Server. And Apple has recognized that. Google has recognized that. Pretty much every other outlet in this room has recognized that body of water as the Gulf of America. And it's very important to this administration that we get that right, not just for people here at home, but also for the rest of the world.
Esther Lopez Sanchez is in ICE custody, while she says her baby, who is a U.S. citizen, is in DCS custody. Lopez Sanchez talks to Zineb Al-Mafkour from the detention center.
This has destroyed her.
Al-Mafkour tells me Rutherford County deputies arrested Lopez Sanchez last year while pregnant. Once at the Rutherford County Jail, Al-Mafkour tells me Lopez Sanchez went into labor and gave birth at a hospital. Then she was sent to a detention center without her baby.
Her whole focus is regaining custody of her daughter, whether that means fighting deportation here, going back to Mexico.
Deputies arrested Lopez Sanchez along with her partner, Roberto Nunez Gomez, for drug and firearm charges. Lopez Sanchez's charges were dropped last month, but Nunez Gomez was convicted. Al-Mafkour tells me Nunez Gomez is the baby's father.
The mom is perfectly capable of caring for her child.
Steve Gill is a conservative political analyst.
The real focus has to be what's best for the child, whether it's being under foster care here in the U.S. while the mother is back in Mexico, or whether it is dispatching the child with the mother back to Mexico.
Attorney Andrew Rankin agrees custody needs to be in the best interest of the child, but says first migrants should be heard in court.
There is an argument
that as a matter of due process, parents have the right to parent their child.
Rankin tells me reliable family members should be next in line.
Does it
So-
matter if that family member is undocumented?
It could matter to DCS.
He says it matters because a family member might be detained too, leaving the child in limbo. A DCS spokesperson tells me that they can't comment on Lopez Sanchez's case because that information is confidential. A NICE spokesperson tells me they are working on a statement for us, but we haven't received that yet. When we do, we'll keep you updated. Reporting live in Nashville, Karen Aguilar, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power.
His inability to say words sometimes worries me tremendously. He is having trouble word finding when he said United States instead of United States. These aren't words. These aren't slips of the tongue. These are words he can't find them. And this is happening over and over again. Comedians joke about it, but it's not a joking matter. I think there is a neurological issue that is not being addressed. And if he had an MRI of his head over there, I would be very pleased because I think he needs it.
Is that
I
something
think
that
he
could have
may
happened in the
possibly-
2-hour time he was there?
Yes, it certainly could. And it's the worry that I have is that maybe he's having small strokes. And, we had that once before in the White House when Woodrow Wilson was president. His inability to find words is peculiar and has not been explained. And I think one has to think of it as a possible neurological issue.